there's not too many people here, just looking around the audience, you remember 76, because it was a beautiful summer. It's interesting because Dan Foblock had put a big headline, long hot summer for the RUC, being attacked. But it was a beautiful summer. I remember walking around the yard, and one Sunday we'd always have a sort of a parade on a Sunday, and we knew that next week Kieran Nugent was going to get sentenced. He would be the first Republican prisoner sentenced under this new policy. Kieran was about 18 at the time. He had already been interned. He was a schoolboy internee, which is important to remember. The people who were school children were interned. And probably he was the best guy who could have been sentenced first, because he was a very sort of, Falls Road guy, tough not in that sense, he wasn't going to take any abuse. He was only getting done with membership. But we had a meeting. It was Kieran's getting sentenced next week. We don't wear the prison uniform. Okay. Everybody's okay. And then back to walking around the yard. I mean, that's the amount of thought was given to it. Because we thought, this is something silly the Brits have done again. It'll be over in a few months, and we'll be back up in the cages with our clothes on. Kieran got sentenced, taken the H blocks, which we only had heard of. We didn't know what they looked like or anything else, other than they were meant to look like a H. He was stripped, all of our prison uniform. He said these famous words, "You have to nail it to my back," and they left him naked, badly beaten. They left him naked for a couple of days, and then they gave him a blanket to wear, and that started what was the blanket protest. And at its height, there would have been upwards of 350 people on it, and intensified into no wash protest and all. But I mean, at the time it started, it was no more than, we're not doing that. And I think that's the sort of, to me, a lot of times you look at republicanism as often about what we're not doing. We're not going along with that there, we're not taking part in that actions, we're not doing this. As opposed to, like, more recently, thankfully, we're looking at what we are actually doing and why we're doing it. There's no real clear idea of how important this policy was of criminalisation. It's only in later years that we realised that. But that was us. That was me in jail. That was, when you're going to be sentenced. I was sentenced in April 1977. I refused to recognise the court, which was still IRA policy at that time. It changed in later years where you would fight cases. So I mean, it was a deadlock court. So there was only one judge. There was no jury. It is a conveyor belt system that you're in Dunkirk, and basically taken to the H blocks. And by the time I arrived, you arrived there. I was taken to H2, and I couldn't work. There was 4 of us in a van going down. As a funny story, because we're hearing all these stories of brutality and all the rest of it. But the numbers are building up. There's actually 100 by the time I was sentenced. And we knew that they were all now being held in H Block 5, because they were still building some of the blocks at that time. And there's 4 of us in a van, and we pull up at H2, because we hear them shout, H2, and we always hear H2 is a bad block, but everybody moved. And I was convinced it was this young guy sitting across, I was only 20, who was going to be taken, and opened the door and said, "Right, McKeown out," and so I was trying to work in my head, like, why am I coming here and these others are going elsewhere? Discovered later it was just because they didn't have space elsewhere. So, but you walked in, just to say what the process was, so you still have your clothes that you're sentenced in, told to strip. So it's called a circle, but I'm talking about language earlier on today, it's not a circle, it's a rectangle, but it's called a circle. For the sake of, because old prisons had a circular milling with there's a name for it that directs all the wings go off from it. Anyway, this is so there's life going on, and people are walking about, the screws, governors and such like, and some prisoners who are conforming prisoners. You're told to strip. So I went to face the wall, and I stripped down to my underpants, and somebody comes over and says, "I said, fucking strip, get the heap off." And I'd always been told about beatings whenever you're just sentenced. So I was witnessing this beating coming, which didn't happen. And then you're told to turn around, and there's a few of them I'm still witnessing that, and it's a thing that I really learned later on, that the actual waiting for a beating is far, far worse than getting a beating. The actual beating happens because I'm not going that long, hopefully, but the waiting for it. And later, actually, screws started to use it. Prison guards used it because on wing shifts, which were a really opportunity for brutality, they would bang grills and all the rest of it as if they're about to move and then not move. But anyway, the thing that's always stuck in my head about that is then I was taken down a wing. So it's ordinary prisoners who weren't conforming, largely loyalist prisoners because they didn't go on the blanket protest, or very few at the start for a short period did. So I'm walking down the wing and I'm naked, and there's these people, ordinary life is going on, you know, and you're into this thing of what do you do with your hands? So you're walking down the wing naked, do you like sort of put them across your privates, you know, and then you think, well, does that show that you're embarrassed? Like, I didn't take off my clothes, it was like voluntarily. But you certainly don't feel like walking down like this here, you know. It's sort of and all I remember was my hands just felt like two lumps of lead by my side, you know. And down in the cell in the bottom of the bottom of the wing, where they kept me sort of isolated from the others, and that was my introduction to it. And I'm trying to work out, like, why am I down here? And it's the next day, then you're out and out to see the governor, and you're bollock naked, and you're walking about, and like very quickly you get used to just walking about naked. And I was saying later on about, I suppose, the body and the abuse of the body, and how their bodies became a weapon, not just in the hunger strike, but in terms of smuggling and hiding stuff. So like, there's a whole philosophy or a whole study around the body, and the body as a weapon. It's like Francis Hughes, when he joined the hunger strike, saying, like, I mean, he had fought the Brits with his M14, he would now be fighting with his body, you know. So, I mean, that was the same for everybody. In later years, it actually, there was a policy by the prison guards to try to literally beat people off it before they could get on it, because they sort of thought if they get down the wings with us, they'll sort of, that's them there, so we'll break them before they can get in. And some people got, I remember one young guy, Potter Moan from Monaghan. I mean, they practically kicked him to death, you know. And he didn't go on the protest. He did his time here to get out, rejoined IRA, and got killed in active service. You know? So it's funny how life sort of changes because of some offence, as we philosophising again.